What up, Suns fans? Suns get the win. This time, they get the win over Atlanta Hawks. Final score, Phoenix Suns 123, Atlanta Hawks 115. What a satisfying game that the Suns just completed. This, I could say, it's just right off the bat here, the Suns really needed this. Needed an answer to whatever we witnessed that Charlotte Hornets game. The Hawks, they're pretty good. But they're also pretty bad. The fact that they are now 19-19 on the season goes to show you how mediocre they are every night. They could be really good and they could be really bad at times. But luckily, we got the really bad Hawks this time. And this one was quite a shootout. The Suns, who struggled scoring against that Charlotte Hornets game, came out with a lot of very new answers. This is really, I call it satisfying because I feel like this game was an answer to a lot of the concerning problems that the Phoenix Suns were having over these last couple of games. Now, it doesn't answer all those problems. The Suns are still problems. They're little minute, you know? It's like we could push those problems away right now because we won. All right, first, let's just enjoy the win here. A win is a win, and it feels good to get closer back to 500. But, I mean, those problems are still going to be a concerning factor as we approach the trade deadline. And I have my 2 cents about those on where this team could stand coming trade deadline and which players could possibly be staying or not. But as of right now, the Suns statistically did very well. It's a very complete game because we had our big three. They all looked so on tonight. Yeah, this was such a fun game. I don't know, maybe it's coincidence that the Suns played this good of a game, but you know, it makes me wonder if like everyone saw that Cavs and Thunder game that happened recently and was like, oh, this is true basketball. Let me step up to that, as this was quite a good game. The Suns and Hawks, they quite literally got into a shootout. This was a high-scoring game. They both did cool off eventually, just a little, but the Suns played really great defense throughout the whole game. It got a little out of hand that second quarter, but the Suns responded wonderfully during the second half. One of the first few concerns that the Suns have had over these past couple of games is that we've seemed to gone away from our 3-point chucking that we used to have very early on in the games. The Suns are a good 3-point shooting team, but we haven't been getting up as many shots tonight. So it was great to see that return, as quite literally a few times the Suns resorted to shot chucking, basic heat checks and stuff like that. And a lot of that was by Booker. And I'll tell you a few things, all right? Depending on where you stand on the new modern NBA and all the threes that teams are dropping now, it's quite literally just the case that that's the environment that the Suns now have to succeed in. And also, I think as the Suns fan, even though Booker, we'll just touch briefly on his stats tonight. He did go 0 of 8 from the 3-point line tonight, but I am happy that he went 0 of 8 from the 3-point line, because that means he was aggressive. I've been asking Book for these last few games, this new offense with Beal going onto the bench, he needs to be aggressive again, and he just needs to get old vintage Book back. So I'm glad he's introducing more shots, more threes into his diet, so he's getting more used to it. And he was aggressive the whole night, which is exactly what I want from the Suns. He kept the Suns aggressive, even though they were missed shots, still kept up the pace, still kept up that same aggressiveness. And hopefully he'll start knocking those down at some point during the season. But for now, the Book is not having the greatest 3-point percentage shooting season. I've found out he's having his second to worst 3-point shooting year of his career. So hopefully he'll just get used to it and the shot will start falling for them. They weren't bad shots. Most of them were open. It's just that it simply wasn't going in for him. So just kind of a mix of bad luck. But the Suns got 33 threes up tonight. They didn't beat the Hawks in the threes, as that's more of their thing. But we did get 13 3-pointers made. The whole team was aggressive is the main takeaway from that. Suns led in rebounds. Amazing defensive effort from the boys tonight. Rebounding. We'll get into the center rotation here. All right, so I don't know if you've noticed, if you haven't watched the game or if you did, you may have noticed a certain big was out tonight. Yusuf Nurkic was DNP'd tonight, basically meaning he not played a single moment for tonight's game under a coach's decision. Big. So meaning all of tonight was minutes up to Oso and Plumlee. This is a very interesting change, and honestly a change that I'm willing to welcome. It's kind of like I have to accept defeat here because I don't know if most of you guys have watched my previous episodes, but I've been trying to defend Nurkic for a long time here. I just think he's a great person and he has his moments, but I mean, I have to come to reality here and realize that Yusuf Nurkic is just simply not living up to the hopes and where this Suns team needs him to be for us to all succeed as a team. So it's a really good decision, as finally we're not just shooting ourselves in the foot every time putting out Yusuf Nurkic out there, which is he's becoming more and more effectively useless as a clear cut, a blunt way to put it. So Yusuf Nurkic, is this a sign? Do we take this as a sign, boys, that Yusuf Nurkic could be on his way out? That is definitely an interesting thought. My personal thought, maybe. There's been a lot of talk about the Suns recently involving and shopping around Yusuf Nurkic to find another team. I've said it in the past. I don't really know how we'd be able to get a deal done, as especially Yusuf Nurkic just isn't that valuable. So it'd be involving some kind of picks. And then we'd also ideally have to get this to go away where the Suns still benefit it. It's questionable. There's not that many options, and it's pretty hard to get done. But this could be a sign that they're already planning on to move from Yusuf Nurkic, that he didn't play this entire game. The fact that we won a game without Yusuf Nurkic is pretty compelling evidence that we do not need the guy. As I've been stating over and over again, defense, huge issue on the Suns, and it still was a playful note, I would say, tonight. The Suns played great defense tonight, don't get me wrong on that. Just great hustle, great defense, great attention to playing, good scrambling to cover guys on arc, guys in the paint. Even though it was to limited success, they let it kind of get away from them in the second quarter. And it's quarters like that in the second quarter that it really highlights the issue that the one thing the Suns are that's holding them back is a good center, a good rim protector, a shot blocker even, but mostly rim protector, as the Hawks went like 5 straight possessions of just laying up the basketball into the hoop, and that's what gave them their lead at halftime break. So it's quite clear to the Suns that interior defense is the main problem now. But as my 2 cents going into kind of that, I'm not too sure where the Suns could improve on that. I'm not that big of a trade junkie, so I can't really give my 2 cents onto who we could trade Yusuf Nurkic for, other than the Suns have been involved with names like Jonas Valanciunas, who a free agent this past offseason went to the Washington Wizards. There's Robert Williams III, who's on the Trailblazers, who recently visited Phoenix, and it was pretty crazy that game. And then there's also Nick Richards of Charlotte Hornets that we just faced last game, and he had a pretty good game. I mean, those are just those 3 names that I could think of right now. I've seen a lot of Suns fans talk about Robert Williams, bringing him here. I don't really get the hype on that. I think he's a little too injury prone for this team to effectively take over our starting center issue, as that's really the problem. Oso, great rookie. He looks really good. A lot of potential, high ceiling. I love what he's able to do, and he did a lot this game, just hustling and reading, making the right plays. But he's still a lot of work. I know Suns fans are a little too quick to jump to let's start Oso. But is he really going to hold his own against players like Jokic, Anthony Davis, Giannis? Like, it's when you get to those bigger elite bigs that Oso starts to become more of a problem. for the starting center. And Mason Plumlee, he's doing a fine job, but really I think it's his maximum potential to be at the backup center. Fine game by him. We'll get more into player performances later, but as of right now, Mason Plumlee, I think he can have his nights as a backup center, but I think that's all he can be. Definitely an upgrade over Eubanks in previous Suns seasons. So that starting center is going to be the major problem for the Suns. Going into trade deadline, Jusuf Nurkic is definitely not fitting that bill anymore. Robert Williams, getting back to him, I don't see it. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Nick Richards, I think, would ultimately be the best decision for the Suns to go and get him for the starting lineup. Although I don't know how realistic it is to get him. I just can't really see it likely that the Charlotte Hornets would trade him for a Nurk and a couple of picks because the way the Suns work, they can't combine multiple players. They can't combine contracts. So that leads to a basically one-on-one player swap situation. So that is what's holding the Suns back on trades during this trade season. So I find Nick Richards a little more harder to obtain. I guess the odds are never zero, but that's just the way I see it. Jonas Valanciunas is also a really interesting prospect. I say prospect, but he's been in the league for a while. I haven't seen much hype about his defensive style, which is really what the Suns need. They need defense. They need a big that can protect the rim. Valanciunas isn't really that for the Suns, but I could also see the Suns going that way because I think the Wizards might take Jusuf Nurkic. That's just a shot in the dark right there. I don't really know if they would, but I mean, what do the Wizards else have, to further tank? So, but Valanciunas, he has an offensive style of game. He can definitely score, so I could definitely see that being a reason why the Suns would want him. If they can't really find a defensive big during the trade season, then why not double down on keep getting a better offense, adding another weapon to this roster? I mean, if you don't really believe me on why the Suns would do that, just take a look at the transactions, what the Suns have done. You look at this roster, and quite simply, the Suns are just a bunch of weapons. Like, there's barely any defense. We have to scramble with most of our small guards. Grayson Allen is a great example. He's pretty small, not the best defender, but he has to hustle, and he's a great three-point shooter. More on him later. So I could definitely see the Suns going for another offensive guy. That's just based on what the Suns have done in the past. So that's kind of my take on the center situation. You could agree with me or not, but I could definitely see that's where the Suns could be going towards trade deadline. Jusuf Nurkic, he might be gone, guys. It's a shame. I like him as just a normal guy instead of on the court. Unfortunate situation. Whatever. Let's get back to the game here and getting into individual player performances. Devin Booker played 40 minutes. He got his 12 assists. I've been wanting him to not pass the ball so much, but he can't stop himself, dude. He had 20 points to match that as well. A double-double for Book tonight, and he's looking like old Book, man. He has heard the call. He has seen that the Suns, how they operate now, they need him to be aggressive. Devin Booker was quite literally hitting some great mid-ranges tonight. All of the big three were hitting big shots from mid-range. It's quite beautiful to see, they're called mid-range warriors for a reason. So I really love that aspect of Book's game coming back. It just wasn't a shame that his three ball wasn't able to get down. He had a lot of open shots and wasn't falling for him. KD, also just another great game. I mean, it's KD, dude. That's another 23 points for you. He had 7 assists somehow. I don't know how KD has had 7 assists. And he had 3 blocks. Pretty amazing. Other than that, great games by KD. Devin Booker. Tyus Jones, 16 points. He had a lot better game ever since he came back from his sudden illness in that Philly game and then the Charlotte game. He has been having pretty rough games. This is his first game where he looks back to normal. He had 4 assists. He's basically a spot-up shooter now and acts as like shooting guard. Really weird. He had 2 turnovers. There's not much else to talk about him. Mason Plumlee, 22 minutes and basically took the remaining of Jusuf Nurkic's minutes and split with Oso, which we'll get into just a second. Mason Plumlee, 2 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 3 turnovers. My reaction on Plumlee is kind of mixed because he's not a starting center. Going forward, he can't be the starting center. The Suns need to trade out of that, and I already talked about that. But Mason Plumlee, a pretty great night. He did fine. Not much to hate on him about. He didn't have a bad game, just a couple of bad plays that I would say about him. But, I mean, he put together a pretty nice night. And we'll talk about his sub for just a second here. Oso, who was the other center for tonight. 4 points, 25 minutes out there, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. And honestly, he had an emphatic dunk, which was amazing. And he made up for his turnover, his one and only turnover, with a steal. And he got to finish it on the other side. I mean, Oso, still love him. Great guy. I love what he could do. Just not starting caliber yet. But a great game put together by both of them to cover the Suns' center issues tonight. But if we were to go against Anthony Davis tomorrow, we're so screwed. And then to finish out the lineup again, Ryan Dunn, who got another start for the Suns. He had a pretty tough role tonight, as his main duty was to basically guard Trae Young. You know, one of the most shiftiest, craftiest point guards in today's league. He was getting pretty battered in that aspect. He ended the night with 4 fouls, and he got 2 of them in like 5 minutes of the game. It was pretty bad. And that led to him being pretty ineffective most of the first half. But what I love about Ryan Dunn is that he didn't give up, as in the second half, he came out way better in the third quarter. He remained scoreless the whole first half, but that third quarter, he exploded, finally getting his 6 points for the night, and he just generally took over that second half by showing his hustle. He got a lot of rebounds, second chances for the Suns, and blocks, and he was able to guard Trae Young pretty effectively as he really learned his lesson. So I really like that little just story arc of Ryan Dunn in this game. And it just really goes to show you how awesome he is. He's such a good prospect here in Phoenix. And that's all of our starting lineup. Pretty good nights from all of them. And we had a pretty good night from our bench as well. Bradley Beal, new captain of the bench, gave up another solid performance. He had a pretty slow night in Charlotte, as most of his shots weren't going in. Like I said already, the big 3 mid-ranges were falling tonight. And that goes the same for Bradley Beal, as he was pretty automatic from the mid-range, showing all that effort. 25 points, tonight's game scoring leader, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Pretty great overall night for Bradley Beal. He's really natural. I think that's such a great move, moving Bradley Beal to the bench, because our offense just looks so much more cohesive. Such a great offensive night that the Suns had, where everyone just seemed to be working together. And Grayson Allen joined him 23 nights. Grayson Allen, 5 of 6 from 3. And then plus he had a couple of other layup attempts, giving him the 23 points. He had 2 rebounds and assists, and it just shows great hustle on defense. I mean, always. This is the greatest Grayson Allen game that we had this season. He is G.A. Allen. Son. It's just great nights from them. And actually mentioning Bradley Beal and Grayson Allen. Bradley Beal, 25 points. Grayson Allen, 23 points. We had 4 players tonight on our roster that had 20-point nights. KD and Book also had 20-point efforts. Really solid. And I'll get into this here because there's not that much other from our bench. I mean, Josh Okogie served some minutes when Ryan Dunn went out from foul trouble. He was pretty nice. It gave some hustle, as he always does. Monte Morris also came in. Didn't really do much. So not much to mention from those. But that's the whole lineup that the Suns played out tonight. But getting back to it, Bradley Beal, 25 points, and Grayson Allen, 23 points. I saw a stat that the broadcast mentioned up during the ending of this game, where that is the first time since the Suns' 2022 season that the Suns had 2 bench players score more than 20 points. And I think that highlights a pretty good point, that the Suns have so much potential. You can see the idea behind it all. You can see just what Matt Ishbia and James Jones and what Matt Bartelstein, CEO of the Phoenix Suns. You can really see what they were all conjuring together when they're cooking up this roster. Has it lived to that idea? No, it hasn't lived up to expectations is all I'll say. But it just really goes to show how bipolar that the Suns have become, that they could be really disappointing at some points, but they have this potential, and you could see the idea of where they were going with this. So it's just something I wish it was more consistent, that the Suns had this kind of effort come from them every night, but unfortunately that is not the case for the Suns. I mean, I hope this is such a spark for the Suns. Our next game, as we now look ahead to the future. So the Suns will be back on Saturday against the Utah Jazz. So hopefully that is another easy game for the Suns. This is a really good stretch that I want the Suns to take seriously. We have Utah, Charlotte again, Atlanta again, and then Washington, and then it kind of gets back up to difficult. But that is 4 games straight of where the Suns are facing pretty much really bad teams of each conference. I hope the Suns take this chance to learn, build that synergy up, learn everything out, become more cohesive, and so they have these answers when they go up against the upcoming game against Cleveland. They are certainly becoming the team to beat this year, so that is going to be a huge game. Don't already have high hopes of where the Suns are going to be going with that. The Suns are now at 17-19 on the season, still below the 500 mark, and I don't believe we change in the standings as we are still the 12th seed in the West. Hopefully the comeback starts now. This is where it starts. Hopefully that doesn't come to bite me back in the coming days. It's quite simple that all us Suns fans just want at the end of the day is to root for a good team. I've tried not to let this dark age that the Suns are going in to try to drag me down. So hopefully we can continue see the Suns to dominate. Hopefully, but that's wishful thinking, and we'll have to see that happen. All right. That is all I have for you tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the Suns win. It's really great to have this win again. Suns win again. Always amazing feeling. If you guys like this content, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. It all helps out this channel. We are very close to 300 subscribers. It would be a really awesome milestone to hit before we go into February here. Thank you guys once again. Enjoy the Suns win. Have a nice night. And I'll see you next time.